Hello, welcome to the second video of Section 2, Generating and Working with Models. In the previous video, we learned how to configure Yii's code scaffolding tool, YII. Now that we can access it, we'll use YII to generate a model based on a sample database table. Then, we'll take a closer look at YII2's models and how they help you manage your application's data. Then, we'll look at how you can retrieve specific models. Finally, we'll learn how to validate, save, and delete models. As you probably already know, models are the part of your application that are responsible for representing and manipulating data. We'll use a simplified version of our monster table in order to clearly demonstrate Yii's model features. Go ahead and use the database management software of your choice to run db section2.sql from the course code samples on the Monster Mash database on your Vagrant server to create our test table and populate it with some sample data. Head back to YII and click the Start link in the Model Generator section. One of the first things you may notice is that if you roll over any of the underlined text, that YII will give you more information on what you're expected to provide in each text box, which can come in very handy. Begin to type monster test in the table name box, and you'll see that YII auto-completes the table name for you. Next, the model class is typically a capitalized version of the table name. And that's it. Click on Preview, and then click Generate on the next page. Now, let's take a look at what YII did for us. Head back to your IDE and open Models, monstertest.php. You'll see that YII created a class that extends from YII DB Active Record, which we will look at more carefully in just a minute. You can see how the code has been tailored to our table name and columns. Active Record is the name of YII's ORM, or Object Relational Mapping implementation, and if you've ever worked with Ruby on Rails, you'll find yourself in familiar territory. It provides functions to load, create, update, and delete data from your application. Typically, one row in the database relates directly to a single instance of a model object, and the value of each column becomes a property of that same object. In order to load models, you will use Active Record's Finder functions. To keep things simple, we will put all of the test code in this section on the About page that we edited in the last section. Open up Views, Site, About.php. You will see that a use statement has been added to allow the autoloader to find our monster test class. Further down the script, you will see several examples of Active Record's Finder methods. The find1 method takes the ID of the associated record as a method parameter. So when we echo its name parameter, we get the expected result of Dracula. Similarly, the findAll method returns an array of active record objects matching a set of conditions. In our example, we are looking for all of the male monsters. Based on our sample data set, we should expect to find 3. And if we look at our script's output, we will see that we do. Next, we'll see that Active Record allows us to validate data before writing to the database. In our sample table, age was defined as an integer, and gender as a string with a length of 1. If we look at the rules method of our monster test class, we'll see that YII generated corresponding validation rules for each of these database requirements. You can see that we've created a new monster using some data that violates these rules, and attempted to write this object to the database using the save method. Looking back at our About page, you will see that the monster test's object's getErrors method returns an array of appropriately worded error messages with the attribute name as a key. However, if we feed our monster object valid data and then run the save function, we'll see that our error array is now empty. And if we look at the database, we'll see a new row with our valid data. Finally, we can use Active Record's delete method to remove a row from the database. You'll see here, because the find1 method returns an instance of the monster test object, that we're able to use method chaining to call the delete method. Now if we look at the database, we'll see that our new Wolfman record is gone. Isn't this great? Without writing a single line of code, YII has created an object that makes interacting with the data layer of our application a breeze. In the next video, we'll discuss the next piece of our MVC puzzle, Controllers.